this seems to be a running trend. I don't know if there's some kind of curse against Xbox or not, but this is very interesting to say the least. As you guys might know, Kena Bridge of Spirits has officially released for PlayStation 5, also on PlayStation 4. This is obviously not a first-party game, but it's a indie game, and it is I guess it's kind of a mid-tier indie game. Realistically, it looks absolutely fantastic. I think they've done a fantastic job actually getting this thing looking the way it does and playing the way it does. I think that they've done just a phenomenal job. With that being said, why is it that Sony seems to be able to pick out these amazing games that are, these indie games? To be honest with you, they're able to pick out all of these great looking indie games, and people don't understand what that means for the consumers. I mean, if you think about it, okay, so for me personally, I'm somebody who doesn't traditionally like indie games. Yes, it gets twisted into thinking I hate all indie games, which isn't the case. There are a good, handful or so over the last, 5 years that I've really enjoyed. And one of the more interesting things about being able to kind of enjoy an indie game or one of these types of games is the fact that they're usually special. Like the ones that Sony picks out, the ones that Sony markets, they're special. And what I mean by special is there's something to them, right? Like if you go by all the games, to be honest with you, that realistically end up on Xbox, right? And I'm just using that for example. Look, Xbox gets some decent ones too, but Xbox will push whatever is going to come out on Game Pass, no matter how good or bad it's going to be. They'll be like, hey, exclusively in Game Pass, day one, this crappy game that scored a 55 Metacritic, enjoy it. Meanwhile, Sony did a good job of getting people, an idea of what Kena was about, and we've seen it multiple times. It looks great. It's taking advantage of the hardware. It's something special. It's not just something herded into like a Game Pass type subscription service, and that's exactly what, I think really kind of appeals to people. Now, I want to get into this because there's a lot of salty Xbox fans right now. What's up, everybody? It's me, Crapgamer, with Crapgamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really do appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It really helps out the channel, and, it means a lot to me personally. So thank you guys for rocking out with me. And, hopefully we continue to do so together as we rebuild. It's a beautiful thing. So this game right now obviously is going to get more scores, but it sits at an 85, which is a very, very solid score, especially for a new IP, especially for the genre. If you didn't know what it is, it's a story-driven action-adventure in a world that, according to this, is rich with exploration and fast-paced combat. Players find and grow a team of tiny spirit companions called the Rot, enhancing their abilities and creating new ways to manipulate the environment. So there's like little environmental puzzles and stuff like that. So far, not too hard. I've actually kind of enjoyed it and think that they've done a really good job with it. But, the game's sitting at an 85. And then the interesting thing is, is you see people sort of question, well, if this was on Xbox, what would the scores be? And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, I just think that in general, the games that Sony picks for their indie games to really push and stuff like that are games that, probably they actually help out quite a bit with. So I think that that's probably a major difference. So if we look at a couple of indie games that came out recently on Xbox, like The Ascent, that's a 68 Metacritic, and then if you look at 12 minutes, that's a 74 Metacritic with a 5.5 user rating. So I mean, the games that people that are coming out on both, and I think that Sony does a much better job of actually going out there and sort of appealing to the fans in a way that Microsoft doesn't, and especially when it comes to like these indie games. And some people might say something along the lines of, well, aren't some indies mad at Sony for this or that or the other thing? Yeah, maybe some of them, but at the end of the day, I feel like not only is it not a big deal, but it's really a situation where I think that Microsoft may be a little bit out of touch because they're not really that involved with the games. It's like they're so focused with getting content, content, that people don't realize that a lot of that content isn't very good. And some of the content in Game Pass is good. I'm the first to admit that. And, I think that sometimes that they're able to kind of pull off some pretty big things in Game Pass. But at the same time, I'm not foolish. I kind of notice that there's a lot of subpar games in there too. And there's a lot of older games and things like that. And I think that's something that people probably also don't really understand. You know what I mean? Is that we as fans should dictate what's going on more so than anything. And the fact that some fans don't do that, I just find that to be a little bit unsettling. You know what I mean? And also the fact that this game is scoring so well, I don't buy into the whole, well, it must be media bias. If this game was on Xbox, we wouldn't see these scores, etc., etc. I think exactly the opposite. I think that personally, if we were to see Microsoft put the effort into getting the quality games and things like that, I think that Microsoft could do much, much better, because there's one thing to have a lot of content. It's another thing to have a lot of good content. I think that that's the thing that Microsoft is missing. Like, you can add some games into Game Pass day one, and I think that's fine. But unless you have quality content, I think that that's going to be something that is vastly overlooked. You know what I mean? Like, for me personally, I look at what comes to Game Pass recently, and some of the offerings are just kind of a joke. They're not very good at all. And I don't understand why people are okay with that. They just go, oh, well, this is something that, is biased, or I don't really know or think that that's true. Like, I think that back in the Xbox One early days, that there was some hate towards the Xbox for one very big reason, and that was a lot of people probably felt like Xbox was trying very hard to take away gamers' rights and things like that. I don't think that it really came down to, oh, well, there's bias and they prefer PlayStation or whatever. I think PlayStation was actually out there, doing something very traditional, and fans kind of respected that. And I like that as a fan that happens. But do I think that there's media bias because another game scores well on PlayStation? No. And it's so funny because you had all these dudes say that, Sony fans and PS5 owners wouldn't have anything to play, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they got so much stuff to play, it's not even funny. They got Kena, obviously that's not a big AAA, but if you have a mix, I think the big difference between what Sony and Microsoft are doing is that Sony has this huge mix, and people say this too. They say this all the time to me, but you don't like cartoon games, and they don't listen, right? For a period of time, Microsoft, all they were releasing was these non-realistic cartoon games, right? That's all they were releasing. Like, Sony, it's a totally different story. They release realistic-looking games with realistic-looking graphics, but they also do stuff like this and release stuff like this. And there's a huge difference to getting all the different types versus one type, which is Microsoft's foible, to be completely honest with you. Now, I like games like this. I played Psychonauts 2 and enjoyed it. I played Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and enjoyed it. I played every Ratchet and Clank game. I grew up with Mario Brothers and all these platformers and characters, and I love those type of games. But you've got to have more than that as a company. And when it comes to like a realistic looking game, I can't even remember the last Xbox new AAA IP that was realistic. I think it might be Quantum Break from 2016, so almost 6 years. Yeah, that's been quite a while. And I do hope that they're going to come out with some more down the road. I can't wait to see what they actually able to accomplish. It's going to be interesting. But again, there's no media bias. PlayStation just picks great games. They fund great games. They help these days. I wouldn't surprise me to see them actually pick up Ember Labs very quickly. They're obviously a very talented studio, putting out good stuff, quality stuff, already taking advantage of the PlayStation 5 hardware. It would not surprise me, and they've already facilitated them with helping them to create this game. Let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up, crap gamer out.